Welcome everyone to another Bitshares Hangout. This is open agenda Hangout. Today is Saturday, June 2nd, 2018, and this is episode number 73. We join every week for these open source agenda Hangouts on the Beyond Bitcoin network to cover and offer the opportunity for others in the community to cover anything that they feel is important to Bitshares as a whole, anything that they are doing within the Bitshares ecosystem, or anything that they are doing that might connect up with the Bitshares ecosystem. Doing something that you think is important for the Bitshares ecosystem and the hodlers of Bitshares, you should consider every week. And you can go there and you can post RSVP threads every week to cover specific topics or to cover your projects or work that you've done in the actual ecosystem. So we try to open up the ability for people to have a voice, to be able to speak about things in crypto ecosystem that is important to them and not to have to pay. In fact, what we like to do instead is break barriers and also get you guys rewarded. So you will see that those who are RSVPing will be rewarded with upvotes, and one of them will be rewarded with cross-chain tokens that we have created between Bitshares and Mutual Aid Society chains as we prepare for the launch of the Whaleshares chain. So now with that said, we do always go through and talk a little bit about the Bitshares State of Network report excerpt, and then we go into the various topics for the week. For this week's agenda, we have the Bitshares State of the Network report. We're going to then bring up SteemPower Picks has something that he would like to bring up. Fox will be stepping in to give some Bitshares core team updates as far as what they've been up to and what they've gotten accomplished. We will then have the Gravity protocol, and that is going to be represented, I believe, by, and they're launching here this week. That's going to be something that's going to be beneficial to Bitshares. And then we are going to cap it off today with Taconator and a couple topics that he has. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with the State of the Network report. Okay, so the Bitshares State of the Network excerpt that has been provided via @SteemPower on steemit.com is provided as an excerpt of a full report that is given out nearly every week. And you can go to @SteemPower on steemit.com and you can check out all of his posts, or you can go there and just check out the Bitshares report thread itself and find out the full information at the full Bitshares State of the Network report. However, we do have a weekly read-off that we will give of these excerpts. And getting started on that now is the following. Number one, Stan has visited Guiyang, China to attend the International Big Data Expo 2018 and has also been televised on Chinese national television. Number two, TradingView charts have been integrated into Bitshares reference wallet, allowing traders a full suite of tools and indicators for all their favorite Bitshares markets. That's something that's been asked for a long time, and it's good to see that it's finally coming around. It's not a small task. Up next is Spark has announced the launch of the closed beta for Sendy, the crypto-powered remittance app. Next is a new Bitshares Block Explorer has been released by Blockchain-DE. The new Block Explorer, BitsharesScanner.org, was announced in a recent Steemit post. And finally, on the Bitshares State of the Network report excerpt for the week, Aristica, the global decentralized platform of personal mass challenges, has released a sneak peek of their fourth version in their latest development update. Michael X and Stan Larimer have also joined this project as advisors. So, first thing that we wanted to bring up real quick before we move on to Fox and the core updates. SteemPower Picks brought something to and posted it. I know it's a little bit outside of the 12-hour mark, but this is kind of important to update on everybody on. And of course, at SteemPower Picks, you're more than welcome to discuss it if you want, or I can read it.
Yeah, definitely. It's just something that popped up last night around, well, it was officially acknowledged last night around 12:40, and that was by Ronnie Bozing of OpenLedger. During the afternoon hours, probably around 4 p.m. Eastern on, people are noticing 404 errors and stuff over on OpenLedger trying to access their wallets and stuff like that. And it would intermittently come and go. And a couple people had even asked me about that as well. And for me, I jumped on. I didn't use the wallet, but I looked on and saw, okay, for me it worked, so I didn't really acknowledge there being much of an issue. And then later on in the evening, Ronnie had jumped into Telegram and hit all the different channels with that notice, basically telling people not to use any of the OpenLedger domain access to your Bitshares wallet, using their GUI and stuff. Basically saying they had lost control of their domains and not even sure if local wallets had been compromised, which is kind of crazy. So I posted that little screen grab of his tweet into the different discords that we have, just so everyone was aware of it. And then overnight, obviously the word has spread. People have created a lot of posts about it too, just kind of get the word out there. I haven't seen any updates about it since.
So that is the domains that have been taken away from them essentially and are now in the control of other people is bitshares.openledger.info and openledger.io. So if you are going to those domains, be very well. Actually, don't go to those domains because you never know who is actually going to be whose server you're going to be pinging off of, and you don't know what's going to be on there. So it's great to know that we got this information out as quickly as we did, and I hope that you guys will all share this information with everybody. Simply because we want to make sure that the BitShares holders who have been using OpenLedger are as safe as possible with respect to what's
right. And I don't really know how much to speculate into that, but remember, around the same time that this happened, that people are noticing this, it was the last minute crunch for people to move open.eos out to their ERC20 wallet if they wanted to hold it, for the snapshot. So I don't know if there's any kind of coincidence in when the site got hacked or taken over, and anyone who might have been compromised during that process of going to OpenLedger as their default to move OpenEOS out. Even though you can still do it from other gateways on BitShares core, but it's just interesting on the timing.
It definitely is, and it's at the time when the distribution of EOS is stopped. So now we're right in that registration moment, like you said. It's like that. This is that interesting time when we're waiting to see how everything goes, and BitShares is one of the best places to hold those tokens, especially considering that there is a blockchain that keeps things a heck of a lot more transparent and honest. And in addition to that, you have the ability to hold your tokens on BitShares and get share dropped EOS. But it sounds like there might be some issues that come up from this regarding OpenLedger. I hope not. It does sound like there might be, not to speculate, but it does seem like it is very interesting timing for all of this. Now, with that said, thank you for bringing up to our attention, SPP, and share with everybody. Go ahead.
No, I said that's cool. Yeah, I'm done with that topic if everyone else is. And then just as an FYI, I do see Fox is here now. He had mentioned he was coming later, but he is here if he wants to go.
Say that again.
I said earlier, Fox had mentioned he was coming a bit later, like to kind of push him through. Oh, he says he's not here. So I didn't know what order he wanted to go in.
Oh, you mean Ronnie?
No, Fox. Sorry, for the next topic.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to get down the list.
Okay. Well, Fox is here today to provide some updates on the core Bitshares worker proposal in the front that they're working on. So rather than continue talking myself, what I'll do is I'll step back and I will ask Fox if he is ready to step up and give his updates for the week.
No, Fox, he wants to go a little bit later in the agenda because he's listen only right now.
Oh, he's listen only. Got you.
So we'll skip him for now.
I must have been missing you saying Fox. I thought that you were talking Ronnie. Okay, so what I'd say that we should do is then probably move on to the gravity protocol. And Xanost, are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. And I have my colleague Peter Kotigov also elaborate on some things. So as you remember, Gravity Protocol is a graphene-based blockchain, and we recently launched a testnet. And Peter is responsible for Q&A and testnet support. So he'll be talking about the fact that we discovered a bug with the emission part of the protocol, and also what we are planning to do to make the testnet much more fun for everyone. So Peter.
Hello, everybody. I'm Peter Kotegov from Gravity team. 8 days ago, we launched public testnet, and part of our emission is reserved for testnet participants. We had a great community response, and we had a lot of highly qualified developers join our testnet. Most of them launched nodes and applied for witnesses, and we elected them. Last week, we found a bug in the emission code. We resolved the bug and hard fork, which was supported by most witnesses who updated on time, and we thank them for their experience. Yesterday, on Friday, the emission was calculated correctly, but it didn't synchronize properly. Which was a result of our calculations taking too long. We're going to have another hard fork fix for that condition next week so that it would happen correctly. Once we're sure that the emission mechanism is working correctly, we are going to announce the Battle of Bots game, where participants try to use a botnet to exploit the gravity index and emission algorithm and earn more than they spend on fees. For the first week, the rules are going to be very strict to ensure the fairness of the competition. So please, don't try to start early and wait for the official rules. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?
Okay, we are ready to answer your questions now, if you have any.
So it sounds like the testing for it is able to be accessed. How do people go ahead and do that?
Pardon?
How do people participate in the testnet?
Okay, we have some posts with explanations about that. There are some guides, some of which Peter created, some of which community members created, and basically you have to register an account at the governance portal with your Bitshares username and your GitHub. we need your Bitshares username, so we can pay you with Gravity Worker tokens, which would be redeemed on the mainnet when that happens, and also you have to create a wallet, get a code from the GitHub, compile a node and apply for witness, for example. Or you could, well, I think that the articles they explain this much better than I do.
Sure, and they would go to. I'm assuming you're talking about the Gravity Protocol account on Steam.
Yeah, you can also just go to gravity.io and follow the links from there. There's a participating in the testnet button, I think. Hold on.
Sure.
Another second, please. Yeah, there's test the protocol button at the top right hand of the page. And that should bring you
the site one more time.
As I said, there's a test the protocol button on the top right hand side of the gravity.io, and that brings you to the governance portal, and that has some explanations and a link to the Telegram chat and stuff like that.
Awesome. So really, you can safely say that you can go to gravityprotocol.org, and that should be pretty much where you need to go.
Yeah, and there's also a shorter URL, the gravity.io, that also takes you there.
Okay. So gravity.io will redirect you to gravityprotocol.org.
Yep.
Fair enough. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they'd like to bring up about this topic? How many people have you had testing so far? Have you received a lot of support?
Peter explained that. Okay, let Peter tell about the participation, because he's the one who.
We have like 7 or 10 active witnesses. From our chat, I can't say precisely right now, and much more are in the active in the chat. They ask questions, so I can suppose that it is like I don't know, tens of them have maintained nodes on their machines. That's it. If I understand correctly.
Xanox, are you able to answer that question?
Which one, about the fun in testing?
Well, Peter just asked you a question.
He did. I'm sorry. I was writing a response in the chat and.
Sure, Peter. Do you want to just repeat that real quick?
I don't know. I don't think I fully understand the thing. Sorry.
No, I think it's fair. I've asked this question before, and it's pretty deep to ask. I think it comes down to going and reading the gravity protocol and getting in touch with there. To be fair on.
Can you repeat your question?
I think he was just wanting to learn more about the gravity protocol in general.
Well, okay. We are a fork of Bitshares, and but we modified the consensus mechanism, and we modified the emission, because in Bitshares there's no emission. It is possible, but the consensus on Bitshares is that there shouldn't be an emission other than from the pool, and we have a notion that most blockchains, they have absolutely no grounding in reality as far as the economic systems are concerned. So we take a Metcalfe's law, and we have an emission when the amount of activity, amount of participation in the network increases. But if it stays level, if it stays the same, then there is no emission at all. Another thing is that we are building a framework of tools, of solutions for small and medium enterprise, and other than the gravity protocol, which is the blockchain level, in the process of creating a gravity solutions GmbH, which is registered in Switzerland, and which would be working on the on those solutions, and partnering with teams that create more tools based on gravity protocol. We really believe in the cooperation based on the open standards. Like if you have something which people already created and it is available with the MIT license, you can save yourself time by using it because it's good. And you also provide the tools that you build with that, think more or less like what, for example, Red Hat Linux is doing. So I think that with the stuff that we're doing, and some of the things are like, for example, in Bitshares, there's smart coins, and there's a problem with the getting them on and off, into fiat, but we are like thinking about something like like Tether, which has fiat backing on one side, but it has smart coins on another side. So it is possible for you to get that on and off into fiat quickly. But if you want to stay anonymous and stuff like that, you can just use the crypto part of it, and we hope that people would build like bridges and gateways into Bitshares, and that would also provide the liquidity for Bitshares and stuff like that.
So essentially, you'll be able to earn these tokens from participating on it eventually on Bitshares itself too, right?
Well, we are share dropping on Bitshares, on Steem, on EOS, and on NEM. And another thing is, someone on Steam wrote about Gravity and said, like, okay, there's a good way to distribute stuff like what EOS did with their their auction auction type, like virtual mining thing, and the coins that we airdrop, they would be exchanged into the mainnet tokens once the mainnet launches over half a year, in more or less the same style as it happened with EOS. But in EOS you had to use F. And here you'll be using those tokens on Bitshares, on Steem, and on EOS and stuff like that. So if you are not in a hurry, then you can get more tokens for your share that you got. If you really want to just convert and dump, be our guest, but you'll probably get less than if you were patient. And also, if you are not active, if you are not participating in this, once this half-year thing happens and all the tokens are distributed, probably you missed out. So there's going to be a post that explains this in more detail.
Cool. The key is that right now you can earn these tokens. You can
you can get those tokens on the just by having your Bitshares in your wallets and stuff like that. And but there's also a testnet going on, and a part of the initial emission is distributed for testnet participants for contributing to the GitHub, for testing out the net, trying to break it, testing the economic system and stuff like that.
Awesome. So right now is a perfect time for you to be able to not only learn about the Gravity protocol, but also earn some tokens in the process and be able to hold on to those. And you're going to be share dropping.
Yeah, and those tokens that we are paying people for participation, they are going to be exchanged one to one. So participating in the testnet is much more interesting thing for everyone than just just waiting. Well, I'm not sure. I think that the rewards are going to happen once the testnet concludes. There's going to be a total link. The tally of the of the stuff, and you can see the history in GitHub. And I expect that testnet would take another 2 or 3 months to complete, and then we send out those tokens, and after that there's a mainnet launch. But there's going to be more publications on the topic, and those would be more elaborate. Some things a little bit, in flux right now. We are following the roadmap we're posted, and I think at some point there's going to be an update to it. And I think sending those questions in the chat, maybe in the GitHub, I don't know, is something that we are going to assemble in the FAQ, and that would also have all the answers for those questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any further questions or comments that they'd like to bring up on this topic before we move forward? Okay, Xanox, if anybody wants to get in touch with you guys, how do they go about doing so?
Well, as I said, there's a link. Oh yeah, there's there was a link posted to our Discord channel, but the place that sees most traffic is our Telegram room. Hold on, I'll post a link. But our governance portal, it has a link to it as well. So hold on.
So really, I guess the best way again is to go back and just say, go to the gravityprotocol.org website, and you can see all of the social media that they have available. You can click and go directly from there.
Yep.
That's a safe way of saying it then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for joining up, and thank you for doing what you guys are doing. Thank you for the share drop. And I would love to discuss a little bit more about this behind the scenes. But we do obviously have, other people who are here who are going to be speaking about some things. John Robert is going to be next. I know that you said that you don't have to talk, but if you could speak up just for, give a couple minutes to the Twentix and about it, I can go ahead and I can discuss you. But just something to keep in mind if you either way is fine.
Sure, Fuzzy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity just to speak. I think that most people are probably familiar with Estefan's team and Bit20 back in the day. It suffered some problems. Basically, it's not able to be shorted. That's kind of the main default with the coin, and it's not super active. But so to solve that, Estefan created a new token based on the same idea of an index of the top 20 coins, but just with a smaller decimal. So the unit it's like $1 or 120 rather than 100,000.
So basically, because the market or the market pegged asset that he has, which is called Bit20, that represents the top 20 cryptocurrencies, since it was such a large amount of value for each one, people were not really willing to short it. And you're saying that cutting these down into smaller tokens will open up the opportunity for people to potentially create more liquidity via shorting it? Is that the kind of concept?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So basically, Bit20 has a long history on the Bitshares network. I think it's several years old at this point. Clearly crypto looked a lot different than I think Bitshares itself was in the top 10 as far as market cap. Yeah, so just the main benefit here is that you can get more tokens because it's a smaller amount, and it's actually alive. You can short and long it, so it's a much more healthy market right now.
So you could look at Bit20 more as like the gold version of it, and these are like little silver pieces almost.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Or you could look at Bit20 like a Ferrari, and Twentix is like a scooter. So Twentix is it's because it's that smaller unit. We think it's going to be very, very attractive to people who just want to get a small exposure rather than getting like 0.00000 Bit20. You can get like 100 or 1,000 Twentix. And ultimately, we're really attracted to this because we want to support smart coins like Twentix is, and we can ultimately see Twentix kind of leading the charge to revive Bit20 as BitShares increases in value.
Yeah, I know that the concept of Bit20 has always been a very interesting one. A basket of cryptocurrencies in general is a pretty interesting one. I will say that smart assets based on cryptocurrencies definitely, in my mind, has always been testing the volatility that a smart coin peg can handle. But BitShares is in one of those great places where we've got some pretty good black swan protection. Even whenever black swans do occur, there are ways of rebooting the networks, the smart coin essentially. So these are benefits, but then when you add into it the fact that these coins are representative of a basket of the top cryptos at any given time, now you're looking at something that I think is a pretty powerful thing, and I can see why people might be afraid to short it to a degree in large amounts. But I do look forward to seeing Twentix getting moved forward with, and I'm glad to see that you guys are doing a giveaway of them. And I hope everybody leverages that to try to trade them and see what they can do with it.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree. It's sort of complex / maybe even controversial, kind of having a crypto price feed collateralized by another crypto. But I think that being said, the game is so different now than it was when Bit20 was started. We think that BitShares has a lot of room to grow relative to the top 20 and actually is deserving of a spot within the top 20.
Agreed. You will not get a disagreement on any of those fronts. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up regarding this or state regarding this?
Yeah, and any guys, you're free to contact me. I'm at Steam, John Robert, or here. That's fine too. Happy to talk to you guys. We're really excited about pushing Twentix into your guys' hand and make this a smart coin for everybody.
Well, thank you very much, man. And just real quick, you said in your post that if you leave their BTS address, that you can send them a couple Twentix tokens. Is that the case still?
Yep, exactly right. So I will drop I made a Survey Monkey, put it up a little bit more in the chat. I'll drop it again. Yeah, you've got to have a BitShares address to receive the Twentix, and just go ahead and leave it there, and you'll wake up to some Twentix.
Well, thank you for joining up, and thank you for rewarding the people who are here with the opportunity to have some of those tokens. And does anybody else have anything they'd like to say before we move on to Fox? Okay, how do people reach out to you, Honorable?
Sure. Yeah, they can reach out to me here on Discord, Honorable JN7, at Telegram, John Robert 99, or at Steam it, just John-Robert.
Awesome. Thank you for joining up, and thank you for keeping us up to date on this and offering us this opportunity. And
I'll see you guys next week.
Cool. And thank you everybody who does participate in this. And in this survey, and make sure that you get your BitShares wallet account ready and give them that information whenever you fulfill the requirements for the airdrop. Now, with that said, I think we've got Fox, who is ready to stand up and give some updates on the core team worker and what they're up to. So what I'll go ahead and I'll do is I'll ask Fox, are you ready to step up and give some updates? Okay, Fox is typing. Oh, does it sound like it doesn't sound like it's coming through, huh? It's okay if you want. What we can do is we can move forward. We do have other topics to while you get this figured.
Now, if I hit push to talk, can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Oh, thank you for the hint there about unmuting myself. All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'm Ryan R. Fox. I am the coordinator for the Bitshares core team. We develop the protocol software here, and I'm happy to join with you guys most weeks and give an update about what the team is up to and what we're going to do going forward. So with that, I wanted to let everybody know about our latest testnet release. This is our second release within the testnet. So we had an original one earlier in May. We found some bugs. We fixed those. We released the software just about a week ago. And then we had our second hard fork trigger within the testnet on Thursday. And we're continuing our testing in there. There are a couple of threads where you can follow along, help us test. Those are available both in English and in Mandarin. Those are included in the Steemit post that I put up there. So please follow along, help us out with the testing. What we're looking forward to after we get this testnet wrapped up in a couple more weeks is to make available the mainnet code, and that should be available on the 12th of June, and that will have everything that's included that we've been testing in the testnet, and we'll make it available to the community at that time. And inside of it, it will have the trigger date of July the 12th, 1 month later, for when all of the hard fork changes will take effect, all of the protocol upgrades that we have completed in this release. So that'll give everybody in the community time to review the code, vote on it, to determine which witness set you want to implement this code. And on the 12th of July, that's when you will see the code trigger, and we will begin our consensus mechanism with the new code base at that time. All right, so that's what's going on in the testnet, and that's what was upcoming in our mainnet. What I also wanted to spend some more time with here this morning was talking about our GitHub project boards. So what we've been working on as the core team is a way to engage with you, the Bitshares community, about what it is we're working on, what we're prioritizing for working on in the future, what we're actively working on, what's done. And so what we've done is created a series of project boards, and hopefully somebody will be kind enough to post them here in the window as I go along. But the first one that I want to take a look at is the project, well, it is actually just the project board. So if you're at github.com/bitshares/bitshares-core/projects, you'll see our project boards. And where you're probably going to want to start is going to be at the one labeled project backlog. And then above those, there will always be 3 additional project boards. And those will be the active protocol upgrade release that's actively going on, and then the active feature enhancement release that's going on, along with then the community claims project board. So I'll go through and talk about all of these here briefly. So if you go into the project backlog, that is where you're going to see 5 columns of tickets, of issues. What I want you to think about it is actually more like 3 columns, where the second, third, and fourth column are actually kind of one big bucket, and they just have different classifications. So the way that these are labeled is that on the far left we have the new tickets. These are awaiting the core team to evaluate and categorize these. So whenever a new issue is created on the BitShares repository, it'll come into this column, and it will ultimately get moved to the right into one of the 3 unassigned buckets. And so there are 3 buckets there, one for bugs, one for protocol upgrades, and then one for features and enhancements. And the reason that we separate these is because we want to make sure that we have an understanding of what they're impacting. Certainly, if we have issues that are going to impact the protocol and we have to modify the protocol and upgrade that, we need to put those tickets into that particular column. Whereas if there are features and enhancements, we can put them in a different column because they will not require a hard fork to trigger them. And then last are going to be the bugs. So this is stuff that's actually in the code that isn't functioning the way that we had expected it to. So we're typically going to take the bugs first, then we will decide between the feature enhancements and the protocol upgrades next. All of these columns that you're seeing here are to be categorized, I should say prioritized, from top to bottom, so that you'll find that the most important issues to be worked on in each of the columns are towards the top. Now, I'll tell you that if you look through it right now today, maybe not. We're still in the process of going through here and doing that at this time. All right, so far we've covered the new, and we've covered the unassigned. And then farthest to the right, you're going to find a column labeled active development. And what will happen is the core team will take the issues out of one of the unassigned buckets and will drag it into one of these 3 active development buckets. And there, of course, is going to be the protocol upgrade release, and then there's going to be the feature release. Also, there is the option for the community claims. And I'm going to talk now about the protocol upgrade and the feature release, and then I'm going to come back and talk about the community claims at the end. But in general, basically the way that this board that we're looking at here, the project backlog, is this is where everybody should come and start on this board, and you'll get a good understanding of really what's to be worked on the far left, what is available to be worked on in the future or to be claimed by a community member in the center. And then on the far right is the stuff that we're actually doing right now. All right, so let's move on, and we're going to take a look at our feature release board. So there's an image of our feature release board, and I chose this one over the protocol upgrade one because in the protocol upgrade, everything is in the done column because, of course, at this point, we've got everything done. It's in the test net. So we're the only thing that we have left to do is actually merge it into the mainnet code. So this feature release is a little bit more interesting to look at. So here we have 4 columns. Again, from left to right, you've got to do on the far left, then you've got in development, then moving to the right, in testing, and then finally on the far right, done. And again, the progression is to be very similar to what we saw on the project backlog board, where initially when the core team take an issue out of one of those unassigned buckets, it's going to go into the far left in to do. And then when they determine that they're going to actually start to work on it, then they'll put it into in development. And then once the developers have completed it and they have it passing all of their tests, they'll move it into the in testing column, and then that's where our code reviewers will come in and give the final sign off that the code meets the specifications and it is actually ready to be released. So then it'll get moved into the done column. So ultimately, once we see everything into the done column, or everything that we think that we can complete within this release cycle, then we will make a merge to put this into the appropriate release, and we'll tag it then on the GitHub page as well. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the community claims board. And this board is meant for you, the community members, who want to come in and do ad hoc work for the core team. You don't have to be a standing member of the core team in order to help us along and contribute your development skills to the Bitshares repository. So where you should be starting, again, is on that project backlog and looking in those 3 center columns in the unassigned columns, right? Find an issue in there that you want to work, and you can go into it and add a comment that just says, hey, I want to work on this one. I'll see that, and then I'll get it moved here into the community claims bucket. And there's only 3 columns in this one. This is pretty simple. We've got on the far left, we're in development, and then in the center, in testing, and then on the far right, ready for integration. So once you say, I've claimed this item, I'm going to put it into the in development column. You guys are going to work on it. I'll stay in communication with you. I'll facilitate any conversations that you need with the core team developers in order to assist your understanding, make sure that you're moving towards the direction that the core team had intended with this particular issue, and then also work with you on writing some test cases and also making sure that we get it properly documented. Once you have it done, then you'll let me know, and then I'll move it into the in testing column, and then this will tell the core team then to take your issue and then run it through their testing. And then once they have signed off on it, then they'll move it into the ready for integration. So at that point, then that means that this particular issue can be merged into the upcoming release, whatever the core team is going to be working on, and get it merged into that upcoming release there. And then also at that point, then you would be eligible for compensation in the form of BitUSD. We'll work with you at the beginning to figure out what the value of it is, and get some estimations before you get started on it as well. But then you'll receive a payment from the Bitshares Core Dev worker proposal. Yes, that's what it is. From the worker proposal, we'll help pay for your contributions there. So I think that covers it very briefly in the way that our project backlogs are organized and the way that we're going to use those boards. And I probably have only time for a couple of questions here, but I'll stick around in the after party for more. So thanks very much, everybody.
Well, thank you for joining up, as you always do, Fox. And I guess my question would be, how do people know in the testing box here on the GitHub, like whenever you look at a project and you look at the various things that need to be done, the things that are in testing, how do you find out, how would you recommend people find out how much they can potentially earn? Have you guys discussed that at all? Like, this test will be worth X amount and we'll put it in the post on GitHub, that type of thing? Or
yes, long term, that is exactly what we want to do. We want to be able to do estimations. We, as the core team, we want to be able to do these estimations so that the community can see what they could expect as compensation for that. However, at this time, we've just been heads down, making our releases and taking kind of what's in the hopper. So we haven't really had the opportunity to do that yet. But long term, yes. So if you find an issue, obviously it's not going to be estimated yet. So what we say is just claim it, and then I can go and and work with you directly and work with the core team directly to get an estimation on that particular issue, and then we can mark that and then move it forward with you as the individual.
So it sounds like if I find something that needs to be added and I've added it, now we're in a place where I'm in the best position for you guys to kind of talk to me and discuss with me how much time is estimated for certain things, and then you can basically assess from there how much people
Correct.
rewarded.
Yes, you've got it.
Makes sense to me, and it makes sense that you would put that in the hands of somebody who is actually implementing something that needs to be tested, since they are the experts on that and they need people from outside kind of giving their input on it. So it sounds to me like you guys are moving forward pretty quickly on that front too. It's good to hear that you guys are going to be able to reward people for helping on that front as well, which is something I think we've been trying to help move forward with for quite some time and try to help people with, because we have a lot of people who do kind of help for free on the GitHub and don't really get anything in return for it other than the vast appreciation of people like Fox.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this worker proposal has enabled us to do, and here now we're putting the mechanisms in place to actually see through on it. So we've got a handful of people that already have some community claims, and they're actively working on them. Thank you to those individuals, and we look forward to getting your code merged in the near future. So again, everybody, thanks very much for your time today, and I will likely be back again next week. Again, you can reach me on Steemit. I'm at Fox. I'm in Bitshares at Fox. You can of course get me on the GitHub repository. There, I'm at Ryan R. Fox, and you can of course send me an email. I'm Fox at Bitshares.Boston. So until next week, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Fox. And thank you, everybody who attends these Hangouts. Thank you, everybody who's sharing these Hangouts. And thank you to those of you who upvote the posts that we do for these Hangouts. All of the funds that I get from my posts end up going into for things to be built that will help you guys. So please consider that whenever you see our posts. And also, if you don't have any funding that you can give, please make sure that you recognize that just sharing these Hangouts and letting people know that they exist can be a huge step to helping us, and in many ways can be and is more important than the funding itself. So with that said, thank you everybody for joining up. There's one person, obviously, that we will not forget today. He joins up every week, and this week he has a couple topics that he would like to bring up, as he does every week. So without further ado, everybody who is aware of who Taconator is, feel free to give a hand for Taconator, who's going to be stepping up and producing some information on things of importance to him within the Bitshares ecosystem in terms of updates. Taco, you there? Oh no. You still there, Taco?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Fuzzy, and hello to everyone, and sorry for that technical issue.
Of course.
The first topic that I wanted to raise today was already raised earlier in the State of the Network report. It was about within the GUI reference wallet, there's the new TradingView charts that are available, which many traders have been asking for a while, and since it has come out, it is seems to be quite popular and effective. So just in case people weren't aware of that, just it's available now in the reference wallet. And I think the more interesting issue actually ties into what John Roberts was highlighting before. This is another smart asset that is available on the BitShares DEX today, and it is a derivative index fund tied to the S&P 500. And this asset is backed by BTS as collateral, and is, for those who are just less familiar, it is available on the DEX if you're interested in just acquiring an asset that is pegged to the value of the S&P 500. Just to contrast this with the BIT20 is also a derivative index fund, and what's different is the composition of those index funds. Earlier was discussed, BIT20 was tied to the top 20 market capped coins, and which can be volatile with respect to any standard, let's say, fiat currency, and even relative to, let's say, the BitShares token. And then in contrast, this other asset, the S&P 500, is another index fund. Its assets are less volatile in comparison to, let's say, the US dollar. So this is just another example of like another type of asset that people could possibly acquire if they're interested, and depending on their assessments and risks that they're willing to take. You might want to take a certain quantity of one index fund versus another, or any other asset. So I think this was an interesting asset that was also brought about by the BIT20 creators. And that wraps up everything for me. Thanks.
Well, I'll say that one of the things that we've talked about in the past quite a bit is these different baskets of value being represented by pegged assets. So I look forward to seeing something like the S&P as a pegged asset. And I think that it also, though it doesn't have quite the volatility, that might not necessarily be a bad thing when considering the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to have huge volatility for the pegged asset to become popular. And in some ways, it might be better that it doesn't have a whole lot of extra volatility, and in which case that makes it something that's quite a bit different from something like BIT20. Just like you said, because of the composition of that index fund, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, depending on your risk assessment and what's going on in the markets and your outlook, you might swap in and out of one or another. Exactly.
Yeah, you might actually have it where you're directly trading them for one another, and you can even create that market in itself. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and I urge people to look into it at the very least, learn about it, because these are things that are going to be. These are the types of things that we want to know about. We want to show people, because this is the first place where this has been possible, is BitShares, right? So as we move forward, we want people to know that. We also want to know which things seem to work best. So I would always urge you guys to consider not taking too many funds to put into things like this at first until you understand it. But there's a good opportunity to actually learn about these instruments just by playing around with them in the sandbox with just a little bit of funding, not necessarily a whole, you can do it with maybe 10, 20 BTS. See if you can make some money that way, and then move forward from there.
Yeah.
Assets that you like and that you understand, and those are the ones that are going to be more beneficial for you. And we have the opportunity as we move into the future to have a very large number of customized assets that represent multiple different value baskets of value. So very interesting, something that I think everybody should take into consideration moving forward with this type of stuff. And always, with these new markets, don't go crazy. If you don't understand what's going on, it's best to play it safe. Don't lose funds in one night.
Yeah. Oh, can I throw in just one more thing about that? With any of these smart assets, including let's say Twentix or the S&P 500, or even let's say BitUSD, let's say, a person has two ways to acquire it. One is, and the simplest way is, you just go on a DEX particular market and you trade for it. So you're trading one asset that you currently own for, let's say, this other asset that might be appealing. That's one way. The other way, to highlight the point that you're bringing up, Fuzzy, which is essentially the riskier way, which is you can short the asset into existence. And in order to do that, you have to have the collateral to short it into existence. So that is certainly an option, but there is greater risk with that because you are risking one collateral for this other asset. So just keep that in mind, that those are two ways to acquire the asset.
Yeah, and you will learn these things on your own just by testing and playing around with a little bit of funding, which is why I will always say don't use too much funding when you're learning about these things, but they're very good points that you bring up, Taco. Now, with that said, does anybody have anything that they feel like we need to cover that we have not covered? Or do we feel like the day has finished off with everything that was on the agenda, has been sufficiently covered, and we can close this off for the week? Okay, well, with that said, I guess we are ahead of time. We're on time rather, and we are ready to close off this session week. But I do want to thank everybody who joins up every week and who participates in these. And I also want you guys to all consider continuing to support us as we move forward, and look forward to showing you guys some of the things that we're doing in the future to open these hangouts up to more people. If you're wanting to live stream these, you're more than welcome to join up and live stream this content every week. If you want to run your own BitShares talk, feel free to go ahead and start reaching out to me about how you can do that. And we are going to continue moving forward with building of multiple tools like whaleshares.net, leveraging the open source code the open sourcing of the whaleshares code, and utilizing that to build a community that will help and work directly with BitShares. We will be share dropping on BitShares in the coming months. So just some stuff to keep in mind. And of course, just keep in mind as a final thought that you guys are what make this possible. So give yourselves a pat on the back. I know it's not always easy showing up every week. And I know that we're not talking about things that are always the most heavy and hot topics in the world. They are things that only nerds like us would like to talk about. So thank you for you guys being here and participating in that, because it takes a community to build these things and to really support the building of what we need to have done, the things that we need to continue moving forward with and improving. And just to be able to know that we have something that is vibrant and a community that is always working towards something that they believe in. And you guys help to make that possible. So make sure that if you know people who are interested in this technology, interested in disruptive things that will help the world, or potentially help the world, let them know about these things. Let them know about the people who are joining up every week. And if you see somebody who's doing something and not being rewarded, tell them to join up, because we want to know about them. We want you to know about them. We want others to know about them, because they're the beating heart of BitShares, and they might not even know it. And that's what these Hangouts have always been for. We try to open up and to be inclusive as opposed to exclusive, where you have to pay to be covered in the space that we call decentralized. So keep that in mind as we move forward, everybody. These are here for you. So leverage them to the fullest. And obviously, thank you for everything that you do. We'll see you guys next Saturday, and let's go ahead and get on to the after party.